I have been taking care of my parents and brother for years. One message which changed everything: my name is Arnold, 31M, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the one my family turned to. My parents, Molly and Frank, had always been in need of help, and I, the eldest son, dutifully stepped in to carry their burdens. And then there was Sam, 26M, my younger brother, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in their eyes. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the one who took things seriously, who studied hard and worked even harder. Sam, on the other hand, was spoiled, given everything he wanted. My parents would excuse his laziness and lack of ambition, seeing him as their shining star. And yet, it was always me who took on the financial responsibilities. I had a decent job, but not one that could comfortably support 3 people, especially when I was barely managing to save for my own future. Still, month after month, I paid for their groceries, bills, and even for Sam's reckless spending habits. I didn't mind, well, not at first. After all, they were my family, and I loved them. But over time, the strain of it all began to take a toll. Then there was Zara, the love of my life. She was everything to me: beautiful, intelligent, and independent. I knew she wasn't from a wealthy family, but that didn't matter. We had plans. Big plans. But my parents, especially my mother, couldn't stand the idea of me marrying someone who wasn't good enough for their son. I heard it all the time: you can do better than her. She's not from our class. Think about your future. But none of that mattered. I loved her, and she loved me. Still, the disapproval from my parents weighed heavily on me. I wanted to live my life, but the constant financial demands and their emotional manipulation kept me tethered to a life I hadn't chosen. It was one late evening that I received the text. I had just gotten home from a grueling day at work when I saw the message from my mom pop up on my phone. I almost didn't open it, knowing it was likely another reminder of how much they needed this month's payment. But as I glanced at the message preview, my heart dropped. Sam, you are so lucky. Arnold will never say no to helping us, no matter how much we burden him. He is always good for the money, and we can always count on him. He just doesn't realize it yet. He'll do whatever it takes to keep us happy. I'm so happy for us, but it's funny. He never complains. The message, meant for Sam, was a gut punch. It wasn't just about the money, it was the tone. The way she mocked me. My own mother, the one who I'd given everything for, was making fun of me behind my back. I sat down, reading and rereading the message. It hurt more than I expected. My parents and Sam had taken me for granted for so long, but this was the final straw. I had been giving my all for them, sacrificing my own future to provide for a family that saw me as nothing more than an endless source of money. The emotional weight of years of financial strain, emotional manipulation, and the sheer exhaustion of constantly being the family's ATM hit me all at once. I felt my resolve harden. I couldn't do this anymore. I immediately called my mother, and when she answered, I didn't waste any time. I saw the message. Mom, I said, my voice barely concealing my anger. How could you do this? After everything I've done for you, for this family, this is how you repay me? There was silence on the other end. Then she spoke, as if it was nothing. Oh, Arnold, don't take it so seriously. We were just joking. You know how much we appreciate everything you do for us. But I wasn't buying it anymore. No, Mom. It's not a joke. I've been carrying this family for far too long. I'm done. What do you mean, you're done? She asked, her voice sharp now. I mean I'm stopping the monthly transfers, I said, my voice steady, though my heart was racing. I can't do this anymore. I need to start living for myself. The line went dead silent. And then the barrage began. You ungrateful son. My mother screamed. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. We raised you, and this is how you treat us. I didn't answer. There was nothing more to say. The morning after I blocked my family's funds, the phone calls began. My mom's name flashed on the screen, but I didn't pick up. My father called next, and then Sam sent a message. Each call, each message, felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. He knew what they wanted, the money, but this time he wasn't going to give in. For days, I was bombarded by phone calls, but I ignored them all. The silence was deafening. The guilt gnawed at me, but I forced myself to stay strong. I had made the right decision. Still, the emotional turmoil that followed was intense. The realization that I could no longer rely on my parents for love and support, and that they had never truly seen me as anything more than a financial tool, stung like an open wound. The first sign of retaliation came a day after I had cut off the funds. My phone buzzed with an incoming message from his aunt, Nancy. She was someone I'd always been close to, but her message was nothing short of a shock. Arnold. Your mother is heartbroken. Your father is furious. Why are you treating your parents this way? Don't you know how much they've sacrificed for you? I sat still, staring at the screen. The message was written in a way that seemed to come from my parents, but wrapped in the guise of concern from my aunt. The manipulation was clear. My parents had reached out to her, painting me as the villain. The message wasn't an inquiry about my well-being or understanding my perspective. It was an attack. My stomach twisted as I thought about my family's behavior. Was I being cruel? Was I being selfish? But as I reflected on everything that led up to this point, the years of financial strain, emotional neglect, and the fact that they never once considered my feelings, I knew I wasn't the one in the wrong. I ignored the message and didn't reply, but the guilt began to gnaw at me again. Was my family's outrage valid? My parents had given me life, and even though I had sacrificed so much for them, there was a sense of responsibility I could never fully escape. Yet, no matter how much I thought about it, the truth remained: they had used me. As the days wore on, the calls grew more intense. My parents began sending desperate messages, telling me that if he didn't help them, they would fall apart. My mother, always the more emotional one, began to send texts about how my lack of support was hurting her, about how she felt abandoned, and how his father was losing his health because of the stress. I read through the messages with growing frustration. It was the same old manipulation, the same guilt-tripping they'd used for years. I couldn't let it work on me anymore. But the final straw came when Sam entered the picture. Sam, as always, was the first to take to social media to paint me as the villain. He posted on Facebook, "It's heartbreaking when your own brother forgets his family. My parents gave him everything, and now he's too selfish to help them. Family over everything, but apparently that doesn't matter to Arnold. I guess he's too busy with his rich girlfriend to care about the people who've always been there for him." The post was designed to pull at the heartstrings of every relative and family friend they knew. It was an outright attack, meant to provoke sympathy and to turn their extended family against me. Sam had always been the golden child, never having to worry about anything. He never had a job, never paid for anything, and always lived off my generosity. And now, in his eyes, I was betraying the family. The post quickly spread. Family members, some of whom I hadn't spoken to in years, began calling and texting. They wanted to know if what Sam had posted was true. The pressure was overwhelming. I could feel the weight of the entire family turning against me, making me feel like a complete outcast. But instead of backing down, I decided to do something I'd never done before. I stood up for myself. I called my aunt, Nancy, who had reached out earlier, and told her that I was tired of being used. I explained everything: the years of taking on all the financial burden while Sam did nothing, the constant manipulation from my parents, and how my love for Zara had been met with nothing but rejection. I let her know that I was finally starting to see my own worth and that I couldn't keep giving to people who didn't see me as a person but as an ATM. To my surprise, Aunt didn't try to guilt me. Instead, she admitted that she'd seen how much I had done for the family over the years and agreed that they'd taken me for granted. She said, "You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You've done more than enough. Take care of yourself now." That small moment of validation gave me strength. It reminded me that not everyone in the family was against me, even if it felt like it at times, but the battle with my parents and Sam was far from over. A few days later, my parents showed up at my apartment uninvited. They were furious, shouting from the moment they entered. My father was livid, accusing me of disrespecting the family and shaming them in front of everyone. My mother, in her usual emotional turmoil, cried, saying that I was breaking her heart and that she had given him everything. "Arnold," my father growled, "you think you can just cut us off like this? What about everything we've done for you? We raised you, and this is how you repay us." I remained calm, even though my heart was pounding. "I'm not cutting you off, but I'm setting boundaries. I'm not going to keep enabling this anymore. I'm not your ATM. I'm your son. And I deserve to be treated with respect, not just as a source of money." My father scoffed. "Respect? You want respect? You're lucky we even gave you the life you have. Now, because of you, we're going to lose everything. And that's on you." Sam stood behind them, his arms crossed, giving me a look of pure contempt. "You've always been selfish, Arnold. You think you're better than us just because you have Zara now." I was furious, my voice shaking with frustration. "I've done everything for you. Everything. And what do I get in return? Manipulation. Guilt. I'm done. I can't keep doing this." They didn't leave quietly. In fact, as I tried to shut the door, Sam pushed his way in. He shoved me against the wall, his face contorted with rage. "You think you're better than us now? You're nothing without us." My heart pounded in my chest. I managed to push him back, but the scene quickly escalated. I called the police, and within minutes, the officers arrived to separate us. After the police left, the tension in the air was thick. My parents stormed off, leaving me alone in my apartment, emotionally drained. I knew there was no coming back from this, but there was one thing I was sure of: I wasn't going to let my family control me anymore. I applied for a restraining order against my parents and Sam immediately. Considering what they have attempted at my home, I easily received a restraining order against them. I had to create my life separately from them. The days that followed were quieter, but my heart felt lighter. Zara was my rock. She held me when I cried, and she supported me when I felt like the world was against me. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life, my finances, my self-worth, and my relationship with Zara. Months later, I married the love of my life. We kept it simple, just close friends and family who truly cared for us. My parents weren't there, and honestly, I wasn't sure they ever would be. But as I exchanged vows with Zara, I realized that sometimes, family isn't about blood. Sometimes, it's about the people who truly love and support you. The financial strain lifted. My love for Zara grew. And as for my family, well, that was something I would deal with later. For now, I had everything I ever needed.